You are next level tired, but it's not the kind of tired that a vacation fixes. You've tried that. This isn't the kind of tired that goes away with a good night's sleep, as rare as that may be, because you've tried that too. So, what is it then? Let's talk burnout. Welcome. I'm Dr. Iman Hypolite. I'm a psychiatrist of over 20 years' experience, and I help Black women leaders move from grinding to thriving. One of the most important things I do is help my patients understand exactly what they're experiencing because clarity is the first step towards healing. Today, we're talking about burnout. Burnout is exhaustion that comes from chronic, unrelenting stress in your environment. It's not a formal clinical diagnosis, at least not yet, but it is very much a real condition with significant global impact. Stay tuned for my upcoming videos about how common it is, its physical impact on your body, and how it uniquely affects Black women in leadership. So let's continue with what burnout actually is. The World Health Organization defines it as an occupational phenomenon, a situational stress response, essentially, that arises directly from adverse work and or life conditions. It's what happens when the demands placed on you consistently exceed your capacity to meet them. And that imbalance can go on for months and years without relief. For high-performing Black women, more times than not, it's not a reflection of our capacity and capabilities as much as it is an issue with excessive and unrealistic demands. Burnout often stems from a few key areas. One, chronic overwork. You're doing the work of 2 or 3 people, often without adequate support, resources, or recognition. In your personal life, this may look like being the strong one or the highest functioning one in your family and circles, always pouring into everyone without receiving adequate or meaningful support. 2, emotional labor. You're managing not just your own needs and feelings, but everyone else's, your coworkers, your direct reports, your leadership. And then in your personal life, you're managing the needs of your spouse or partner, your children, your parents, your friends, and so on. Somewhere along the way, you were designated as the one that everyone relies on to problem solve, soothe, keep the peace, smooth things over, code switch. Emotional labor is often a hidden cause of burnout because in relationships and institutions that lack boundaries, or at least healthy ones, it just looks like being a good wife, being a good parent, daughter, team member to the people benefiting from your emotional labor. No, ma'am. Number 3, lack of control and authority. You are placed in roles where you are bestowed responsibility without adequate authority and resources. You're accountable for outcomes you can't fully control. You're not provided the resources necessary to be successful. Some even describe this as feeling like you're being set up to fail. It even has a name, this phenomenon. It is called the glass ceiling theory. If you're interested in hearing my perspective on the glass ceiling theory as a Black woman psychiatrist, leave a comment below. 4, values misalignment. The work you're doing no longer feels meaningful, or it conflicts with what your ethics and morals and what you care most about in life. I lean heavily into values-based living in the therapy I do with Black women leaders by using a specific type of therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy, which helps you identify your core values and live your life with greater alignment with them. Number 5, insufficient rest. You're going with no real downtime. And when you do have time off, your body still won't allow you to rest. Your nervous system somehow remains activated, still braced, still waiting for the next thing. Over time, this creates a specific type of exhaustion that can show up in 3 ways. 1, physical exhaustion. Your body is tired in a way that sleep won't fix. You might have headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, or just feel run down all the time and even be more prone to colds and even chronic illnesses. Basically, your body's defenses are run down, leaving you susceptible to a vast array of illnesses. Clinically, we call this allostatic load, and I'll be discussing this in upcoming videos as well. Emotional exhaustion. You feel detached, numb, or that this life you've worked so hard to build is not as satisfying or fulfilling as you thought it would be. You're going through the motions essentially, not really present, on autopilot. Not feeling sad exactly, but pretty much feeling blah. Mental exhaustion. Your brain feels foggy, you forget things, you struggle to concentrate, or have trouble making decisions that used to feel very simple. You've essentially hit a wall. That's burnout. And it's a direct response to what's happening in your environment and evidence of how it directly impacts you. Now here's where things can get a little confusing. Burnout can look a lot like depression and anxiety on the surface, but they are different, and the distinction matters. Here's what makes burnout distinct from depression. Depression is a clinical mental health diagnosis. It involves pervasive changes in your brain chemistry, emotions, thought patterns, and these extend beyond any single situation or stressor. Depression affects how you experience everything: work, relationships, broader life experiences. It's a weight you carry regardless of what's happening around you. Burnout is situational. It's tied to specific external conditions: your job, your responsibilities, the pace you've been keeping, the weight of being the person everyone depends on. It's tied to specific conditions and circumstances in your life and environment, such that if those conditions or circumstances changed, for instance, if you took a leave of absence or sabbatical, stepped away from a source of stress, received adequate support, burnout in your overall quality of life would improve fairly quickly. Burnout is responsive to environmental and lifestyle changes in ways that depression often is not. Here's a key distinction. With depression, you might feel heavy, low, and can't find much joy in anything anymore, even the things you used to love. But with burnout, you might think, I'm too exhausted to enjoy anything because I'm so worn out and spread thin. Now let's talk about the distinction between burnout and anxiety. Generalized anxiety disorder often involves excessive worry about many different things, most days for months. It's often accompanied by physical symptoms such as restlessness, muscle tension, upset stomach, GI upset, trouble sleeping, and difficulty concentrating. The worry feels out of proportion to the actual situation and is hard to control. With GAD, the abbreviation for generalized anxiety disorder, the anxiety typically interferes with your ability to function at your usual level. High functioning anxiety, that's something else I specialize in, is a little different. You're nervous and on edge, but you're still performing at high levels. You might be excelling at work, meeting deadlines, staying organized, even getting promotions, but internally, you're running on adrenaline and driven by your worries. You're constantly anticipating problems, overthinking, struggling to relax. On the inside, you're utterly on edge as you scramble trying to keep it all together. Burnout can definitely include symptoms of stress, anxiety, and worry, but it's not worry about a broad range of things like it is with generalized anxiety disorder or GAD. With burnout, the worry and stress revolve around a specific situational stressor in your environment: the job, the role, the excessive responsibilities that's caused you to operate at an unsustainable pace for too long. But here's the complexity, as if this were not complex enough. You can have more than one of these at the same time. You can be burned out and depressed at the same time. You can be burned out and anxious at the same time. You can be burned out, depressed, and anxious. You can meet criteria for all of these conditions. That's why working with a mental health professional who understands these distinctions is important. Because if you're treating burnout like depression or treating anxiety when the real issue is burnout, you may not get the results you desire and remain stuck in a loop of stress, heaviness, and overwhelm. The treatment paths are different. Depression often requires therapy to address depressive thought patterns and behaviors. Sometimes, not always, medication that improves brain chemistry or supplements if you're working with a psychiatrist like me. Anxiety requires nervous system regulation and therapy to address anxious thought patterns, and sometimes medications or supplements. Burnout requires rest, boundaries, lifestyle adjustments, and addressing the external conditions that created it in the first place. In my practice as a holistic psychiatrist, I have success with a variety of supplements, which are not medications, and holistic approaches to treat high-functioning anxiety, high-functioning depression, and burnout, and insomnia. So why does burnout get misunderstood so often? First, it usually develops slowly. Burnout doesn't really announce itself. It slowly creeps up, which can make it hard to notice and pinpoint. It accumulates beneath the surface of every responsibility, every time you say yes when you want to or should say no, every time you push through when your body is asking you to stop. By the time you recognize it, more often than not, you're usually already deep into burnout. Second, high achievers are conditioned to normalize it. You've been taught that exhaustion is the price of success, that rest is something you earn, not something you need, that if you're tired, you just need to work harder or be more disciplined. So you don't name what's happening as burnout. You just think you're not doing enough. Third, burnout can look like other things, like we just said. The symptoms overlap with depression, anxiety, and even physical illness. So you might go to a provider who sees your exhaustion and low mood without fully understanding the context of your life, the pace you've been keeping, the lack of support, the chronic stress you've been managing, and they might diagnose it as something else altogether, or they may not notice it at all. And fourth, this one's a kicker. There's a lack of understanding about how burnout shows up specifically for Black women leaders. Cultural context matters. The emotional labor matters. The code switching, the hypervigilance, the experience of being the only one or the first one, all of that contributes to burnout in ways that many clinicians don't fully recognize. You're not just managing work. You're managing perceptions, navigating bias, and carrying the weight of representation. That adds layers of exhaustion most people cannot fathom. But once you understand what burnout is and how it's different from other conditions, you start noticing the signs yourself and taking steps to address it effectively, at least hopefully. Burnout is not a life sentence. It's a signal that something in your life needs to shift, and it can shift. In my next video, I'll talk about burnout prevention and recovery and why is the smarter, more sustainable path forward. If this video helped bring clarity, follow me at Soft Life MD on YouTube and Instagram for more strategies for soft living. That means life with more peace, ease, and enjoyment. And if you're ready to move from grinding to thriving, request a consultation with me at drhypolite.com. Bye for now, lovelies.